welcome to this week's episode of Watershed Talks. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, had a nice Labor Day weekend. Got to read a lot on St. Augustine.
Woo!
Yeah, there was much rejoicing. How about you, Matt?
I'm doing pretty well.
Okay, cool. We getting excited for fair?
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite fair things to either do and or eat?
Well, right now I do enjoy working the grandstand,
Okay.
setting all that up and doing behind the scenes with the bands and stuff.
Right?
But I also really do like the nitro ice cream.
Okay, I haven't had that. I have to check it out. How about
Hopefully
you,
it's
Tim?
there.
You got a favorite activity and or food?
So my favorite activity is just walking.
Okay.
I like and people watching.
I was gonna say, I bet you like people watching.
Yeah, that's that. I like doing that. I really don't eat any food there.
Okay.
Because if you, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But it's also it's like
It's not healthy.
it's not healthy.
I mean,
That's
calorie
kind
wise
of the
and
reason.
nutrition wise.
Right.
Yeah.
I do, man. I go to town on all the donuts. The Spud Nuts chocolate is like one of the best chocolate frostings I think on a donut I've ever had.
Now I'm gonna have to try.
And
it.
then the Tom Thumb is a whole different animal. It's more the like cinnamon, but it's hot and fresh, which is like, oh yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Now that you say that, like,
Oh man,
yeah.
I have to do it every year. It's fun though, man, and I love the whole like vibe of. It's just not a thing I've ever experienced till I came here. I mean, I've been to fairs, but nothing like it's. I don't know do people here know how big this fair is? Like, or is there an awareness?
I think so.
I mean,
I think the fact that our cell service seems to go down and like Wi-Fi gets slower.
I mean, just how much stuff. you
Yeah,
know, like,
traffic.
I ran
my
sound for a
goodness.
band at a tri-county, 3 counties worth at North Dakota a month or two ago, and I mean, Clay County could have eaten it up and swallowed it like multiple times. I mean, it was just
Oh, my
like
goodness.
it was like the size of like one of the lots, maybe. Which I mean,
Wow.
good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're having a good time, but yeah, it's Clay County Fair is a
Yeah.
special thing.
Mhm.
I do the opposite hours of you.
Oh, okay.
I would say.
Oh, you're going because
Like-
grandstand. Yeah,
Well, or it's like just shifted 12 hours,
yeah,
where it's like 5 p.m.
Yeah,
to
you're
2
more-
in the morning.
right. Yeah,
When we
yeah.
take that thing down.
I'm gonna be kind of both because I'm driving carts this year, and so
Ooh.
I'll do Sunday night and then Monday. But what I'm looking for, I think I'm gonna go to Amazon today and find it. But I need to find some sunglasses where it gives me crazy eyes, so that way, like when I pull up to somebody like that, like I can just be kind of jittery and like, hey, you need a ride?
Well, I didn't realize you were running carts, and I'm remembering how you drove the golf cart at youth camp this summer, which was a bunch of donuts. Just,
Oh, so it's going to be a fun time.
It will be good. Yeah.
but anyways, well, why don't we turn and kind of head into our actual text today based on what you used for your sermon Sunday, Tim. And I've waited to tell you this, but because I wanted to do it on mic. Probably, almost definitely my absolute favorite sermon of yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was just like the topic. So the topic is about. Well, why don't you tell us?
Yeah. So it's being present.
Yeah,
Just taking time to focus on the here.
yeah. How us hippies with dreadlocks would say, "Be in the now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So you already had won me over just with the topic,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean, I think there was like no fat. You had it just like tight, and then I loved one of the favorite. We need to come up with a name for this, but you did a thing where you, in the moment, you sort of said like, I bet everyone here is having trouble. You even said like, I bet I've already lost y'all.
Yeah.
You remember that? And,
Right.
like you were like taking the lesson of what you were preaching on, and like I've done that same trick, if you will, when I was talking about judgment. I preached on judgment one time, and I was like, and I bet everyone here is already judging whether you like my sermon or not.
What did they call that? It's like
I don't know.
The fourth dimension or something like that. Like Deadpool does it, where he
Oh,
kinda-
break the fourth wall.
Yeah, that's what it is. So it's like in a way you pull back
Well,
and you kind of explain what you're doing.
You do, but it's so like you're using the exact main takeaway you want, and you're like you're engaging the people with that right then. It
Yeah.
was just I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, it was kind of fun to do that because one of the things that I also did was I actually explained how I write the sermons so
Yeah.
that way I keep people's attention,
Yeah.
which is it's funny because you know that most people can't listen to things more than like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And so you have to change over, every 3-4 minutes. Kind of like when you watch a show, every 7 seconds there's a shift.
Yeah,
in
which that's upped since we were kids, but
Really?
and I guess you can probably do that since you have your sermons more written out, where my style is more improv in the moment,
Yeah.
but it's still like it's a rhythm that you need to be in. So, but why don't we, as we always do, start with scripture and then we'll just kind of see where it goes. So, what's our main story today for talking about being in the moment?
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm basically following Jesus in the book of Luke. It starts at chapter 18, and what we see is that Jesus is walking toward Jericho. And just imagine like you're on a walk, you're going to a certain place, and as you're on the walk, you get basically interrupted. And so
Yes.
most of us, when we have those interruptions in life, we're like, okay, yeah, that's great. I'm going to continue on because that's my main purpose.
Oh, dude, I am so bad
Yeah, I
at
do.
those interruptions. Will I don't have a lot of patience, and when I am heading, like it'll happen at home, like when I am ready to be in bed, and then somebody, the trash wasn't taken out, or I forgot to do it, or the dog needs a walk, and then you get in bed and then realize, because I always like to have a cup of water, if I get thirsty. So it like by the time I'm getting up like a third time,
Yeah.
like just clear the hallway, just like those interruptions, like I am so bad at my reaction to those. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna guess Christ reacted a little better.
Yeah. So he's walking to Jericho, and as he's walking, this is verse 18:35.
I don't
in
think we
Luke.
said that. Oh, Luke. Yeah.
Okay. And it says, as Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard the crowd going by, he asked, "What's happening?" And they told him that Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. And so he called out, "Jesus, Son of David,
Yeah.
have mercy on me."
Yeah.
And so then, what happens is, the disciples are like, "Hey, be quiet."
Yeah.
Like he's a busy guy.
Yep.
But
Same thing
Jesus-
with the kids.
Yeah. And so Jesus actually takes time to be present in the moment. He heals him of his blindness, and then he just keeps on going.
Okay.
And then we bring it down to Luke chapter 19, and now he's not going to Jericho, he's in Jericho, and there's a man there, and his name's Zacchaeus. And
I just have to interrupt for a second. So, you know what? Have you ever heard that there is this sort of like, if we can be Christ-like or Jesus-like, some people in other places would say Buddha-like. Like it's this evoking of like this calm, Zen-like presence that's just going through and not reacting like I do. Well, if you had superpowers where you could just like take care of whatever you needed to in the moment,
that would be nice.
Maybe that's why Jesus is able to not be so.
Yeah.
Like so.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. So I just like the dogs walked.
Yeah.
Glass of water's there.
well, it's like in ministry, one of the things that you have is like you have somebody who calls up and like, "Hey, I lost my house,"
Yeah.
or something like that. It's some big issue that's bigger than what we can actually do, and it's like, well, that's great. Here's the resource,
Right.
and
Yeah.
if you're Jesus, just
he
give
could
up,
have
like,
Yeah.
bam.
But anyway, so I interrupted you. So
Oh,
now
no, you're-
so he's in Jericho, which is of course the famous place where the walls went down. So
Yeah.
do y'all know, if Bible trivia, whether they rebuilt the walls by Jesus' time or not?
That's a good question.
Yeah, they built it several times, but
Oh.
just a little Bible trivia there. So pick us up with Zacchaeus.
Okay, so Zacchaeus, he is a chief tax collector, and he is probably seen as somebody who's not well liked. Okay,
That's putting it nicely.
they did not like tax collectors because a tax collector, they would make their living taking a little bit off the top, and so
And then they would do even more than that, though.
right,
Yeah.
depending on your integrity level, and so. When Jesus sees him, it says, when Jesus reached a spot, this is verse 5 in Luke 19:5. when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up to him and said, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. And so then he goes over to his house. He has dinner with him. Zacchaeus has this transformation. He's like, if I wronged anybody, I'm going to give him 4 times the amount back.
Yeah. So how, aside from the way that Jesus is, I mean, I can see here that, he's in the moment in the sense of this person that needed his attention. Mm-hmm. He takes care of, and then another person he notices. So is that your spin on how this is an example to be present to the moment?
I mean, so Jesus doesn't let what's going to happen in the future disrupt what he's doing right now. He's living in the moment.
So tell us that a little bit. I think I remember you saying there's like a game that we might be playing. Tell us about that. Like what are we doing when we're not in the moment?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do when we're not in the moment is we lose our attention. Like we have a lack of attention. It's biological. Our brains seek out something new. So that's one reason why. Another reason why we're not in the moment is because we play games. So the one that I play, and this one was really convicting. I mentioned it. It's the win then. So the way I'll put it up, when I was younger and going through college, I was like, okay, so when I get through high school, and then when I get through college, and then when I get through seminary, and when I get my first church, and then when I get ordained, then
I'll be
happy.
Yeah.
And so it's like all these different things. It's like, okay, I'm just waiting for the next big thing.
Yeah.
And so, but it never ends.
No. I was listening to a sermon once while I was driving, and this was back when I was going to University of Texas in Austin, and so Austin traffic and stuff. I lived 20 miles away, and it took me an hour to get to there. But it was funny though. It was definitely a God thing because I'm just like, oh, just get there, like go. And the actual sermon that I'm listening to talked about sitting at a red light, and just all of your mental focus and even emotional energy is like, just turn green. And the pastor said, if I'm not happy and content and full of that Christian joy, at least on this side of the red light, then I'm not going to be on the other side of the green one.
Good.
Right? I mean, it's just going to be the next one, you know? And it was like, I'm sitting at a red light.
Yeah.
It was definitely like God could not have had more of a flashing neon sign,
Kind of like the movie Office Space, where he's stuck in traffic and there's the old man who's walking just slowly.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I do that one less these days, although I definitely have in my life. But one I still will struggle with is, I don't know what you would call it, but it's essentially broken record thinking around offenses and hurts. I don't know what the short version of that game would be, but it's sometimes it's sort of like, oh, I should have said this and had a witty response, or
that's a good. So it's. Circular thinking.
It definitely is.
And sometimes you spiral.
Yes.
When I know that I do it with catastrophizing, it's like the idea of, oh my gosh, I did this, and then this caused this, and then this caused, and so it's a psychological thing that's tied in with anxiety.
There's like the thing that wounded, and then there's all of the secondary reactions to that. And again, I'm getting close to being 45, and it's a lot less. It is a lot less, but nonetheless it will still. And then my only other one for me that takes me out of the moment, which I think is probably pretty common, especially for people sitting in like church, is just the tasks of the day.
Right.
That one's probably my number one that takes me out of the moment, is just a running list of the task I have to get done that day. So how about you, Matt? What if you could reflect, what do you think is your usually, taking up your mental space that pulls you out of just being right here, right now?
I would say thinking a lot of like what's next in the day, like
the tasks or
just
the
task
schedule.
oriented, the schedule. Like, so right now I'm here recording a podcast, but soon it'll be lunch.
Yeah.
And then am I going to drive back to Living Word to get some work done, or will I work from home?
Right.
Just planning those things just
Yeah.
in the head.
Yeah, I mean, any
Yeah.
of the above, right?
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, if we could somehow be given a report at the end of the day, how much of that day, how many minutes or
Yeah.
even seconds were we in the moment? I mean, what do you think you'd get?
So for me, I have the ability to hyper focus.
Okay.
And so I can stay in the moment working on certain things, but a lot of times my thoughts drift to, okay, again, the win then,
Yeah.
So I would say, it'd be
you don't have to
very
answer,
difficult to
specifically. But then I wonder, like, even relationally. So,
Mhm.
like, there's just in the moment with God, just in the stillness of a quiet time in the
Yeah.
day that's needed. But there's also that desperate need for many of us to be in the moment with the people in our life,
Mhm.
because that would be, again, I think that report card would be pretty low for a lot of us. Just that
Yeah.
need to check the phone. I mean, we all know this is,
Yeah.
but so what do you see here in the text? Like, is there anything that gives us an actual, like, help, a life hack, or
Yeah.
like, what would you say then?
So there's 3 other scriptures that I brought up that I think are not necessarily solutions, but they guide us on
Okay.
how we are to be more like Jesus. So one is Matthew 6:34, and it talks about, like, do not worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow has its own worries. So again, Jesus is saying focus on the here and the now.
Yeah.
And then we have James 4:13 through 14, and it talks about how life is a mist. Your life is nothing but a vapor or a mist. It's here today, gone tomorrow. And just putting it in that perspective, it's like, okay, so I might not have tomorrow. I might just have today. And so why don't I work on making today the best day that I can?
Yeah, I'm even thinking of the, essentially the Jesus when he's saying, "Don't worry, God takes care of the sparrows." That whole thing. But we are kind of. This is a tough one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know that there's a more powerful practice than to embrace stillness as a Christian and just carve out time to be just you and God in a contemplative prayer. And yet it's probably one of the least things any of us do, even pastors especially,
Yeah.
probably, so what I'm trying to think of it compassionately, like, what's going on where this is a truth that we know Scripture is teaching us. Like, what are the pressures that are, or forces that are pulling us or pushing us? Like, do you think it's literally like this is a Satan thing that like this is how he gets us? You get where I'm
Yeah.
going? Like, what's happening where we all struggle with
Yeah.
this so much?
So I'll give you a real life. A few years back, I was with a denomination that gave you like a week sabbatical, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take it. It's part of the package that they offer. So I took a week sabbatical, and I went to a church camp in the fall. And at this church camp, they had like a labyrinth. They had woods you could go hiking in. You could do all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my Bible. I'm going to bring 1 or 2 books that I've wanted to read for a while.
Right.
And I'm just going to be still. And I got there, and I did that. I went outside, walked. I did the labyrinth, and I got back 20 minutes later. I'm like, I am so bored. And I actually had to cut it off because it was terrible for me.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know what the solution is.
My seminary, we're forced, but it's a requirement to do. So we have to go in the summer, since it's a remote program, but it's a University of Dubuque, and we have to go in the summer for like a residency for a few weeks.
Okay, yeah.
And you got to do that 3 out of your 4 years for the Masters of Divinity. And 2 of those, you have to do a 12-hour quiet no vow of silence at a like a monastery or something like that.
Oh, wow.
It's a Catholic place that has all these kind of things you just described. And then you've got to do one that's a 24-hour where you've got to be you stay overnight, and there's no phones, there's no nothing. You can have a book, you can draw, you can walk outside. And my way of like getting through it was it's on this beautiful piece of like wooded land. So I just went hunting mushrooms and just found a ton of cool mushrooms to like have. But really, I was still just finding something to do.
Right.
Like I just wandered through the woods, and it was nice, and it was definitely. I still think there was a spiritual formation in not having my phone, and just being in nature with God is always really powerful for me. But when I reflected on it later, I'm like, I kind of just like went around it a little bit and just played in the woods,
Yeah. So, one thing that I've done lately, my wife and I, we went to Door County, and there was a spot where you kind of sit on this ledge, and the ocean, or not the ocean, but the lake is pushing up against the rocks, and it's created a cave underneath. And so we just sat there and just kind
Nice.
of watched and listened to the sound, and probably maybe 20 minutes or so just sat there. And in that situation, it was easy for me.
Yeah.
Because there was so much beauty,
Yeah.
and you're just kind of taking it in.
Yeah. I mean, in the stillness, in the quiet place, you were there. That's one of the Psalms. Yet, do y'all feel that we're like actually like kind of uncomfortable with quiet spaces, like silence? Like they talk about like awkward silence when you're in a group. Like, do y'all feel that in general as humans, we do get uncomfortable, do you think? Or what do y'all think? Are we going to do this game?
The awkward silence.
But right,
I would say yes. Yeah.
And so why is that? Like what's going on to cause us to be uncomfortable with just getting still and quiet? We all agree that the Holy Spirit's there. We all agree and have read these scriptures. I'm going to just assume we've at least heard these scriptures preached or read them and plus the example of Jesus, this advice to be still and quiet. And yet even us believers will be very uncomfortable with just being still and quiet, to the point that you only had 20 minutes ago, and it felt like I'm guessing an hour or something.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
like what's going on that we're that, we're like, ooh.
Yeah. Well, even when there's pauses in here, like
Right.
one of the things I've noticed is I can hear that background hum of the lights.
Oh.
And like, I don't know if you've ever been to a silent place, but even in silence, there's like this odd, like it's uncomfortable.
Right.
Like that silence is uncomfortable. And I think it's partly because, we as human beings, we seek out stimuli, and we need that, we want that constant something, and we're brought up in a world in which there's constant information. There's like every single moment there's, if I want to know a question, just get your phone out and
Oh yeah.
And so how do you go from that where everything's accessible to intentionally cutting yourself off from everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that we seek that stimuli out in whatever form is essentially we're all addicts.
I think you're onto that. Yeah.
I think that some people use substances for it, and others use being online, social media. But I think many of us are carrying either unforgiveness or unrepentance that is just gotten in there so long that we may not even think about think about it consciously anymore. But they call it is stuck grief. And I think many of us have these things just that we're just carrying around with us so much, and we haven't dealt with it through the tools of, like, again, forgiveness and repentance. And sometimes that's just forgiving yourself even. It's not, we need that as much as we need to forgive others. What does that literal mean? It means letting go. And when we don't do that, then we're still holding on somewhere inside. And I think that is a part of why we're so uncomfortable. It's just like one of my theories that I picked up from, over the years of doing ministry. But I think that it's below, like, we're not necessarily, we may have forgotten, but we haven't forgiven. And it's in there. And it's just this like hard thing that, like, the more still and the more quiet and the less distraction, the harder it is to, like, avoid it or escape from it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, does that sound like it makes sense to y'all? Or?
I mean, it really does. And when you were doing that, like, I'm like, my brain doesn't go to grief or feelings of shame. I think, maybe this is a byproduct of shame, but when I'm not doing anything, when I'm still, it kind of goes back to that Puritan work ethic. You know, like if you're not being productive, you're not worth anything.
That is an answer to one of the questions. What are the forces that are like either pushing us or pulling us? And that's definitely one
for sure
in our culture.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't lay down on the couch and watch a movie midday on a Sunday without like still feeling like my dad's gonna walk around the corner and like, what are you doing, you lazy bum? You know, like it's just there, you know, like, and I don't even necessarily think that in the moment, but I'll get that uncomfortable feeling, and it's coming from exactly what you just said, right? I mean, we don't want to be without a work ethic, right?
Yeah.
This isn't an inherently bad thing, but have we pushed it a little too far, you know? I mean, I know in the youth that I worked with since I've moved here, they are so busy.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane.
This town has kids that are just, I've never seen, I'm sure, you know, maybe it's just where I'm from, it was a little different, and maybe maybe this is the norm. I'm not even saying it's outside the norm. Maybe where I'm from was outside the norm. I don't know. But I know that like Sandy and I felt it when we moved here. We felt the pressure of like, wait, are we bad parents? And like, we know we are with some things, but we were like, do they need to be in like 5 extracurricular activities at once? You know, and it just.
So to piggyback on that, I had a
bingo.
Yeah, right. You didn't say I have a theory, but you said here's my theory.
Went around it.
Yeah. So my son and I, we took a road trip yesterday to get some drums, and one of the things he said, it just kind of hit me. I was like, so are you enjoying being a high school graduate? Are you enjoying college? He said, you know, he's like, I really can't wait till I get in the workforce. And he said, not that he's looking like the wind then, but he said, you don't understand how busy high schoolers are.
Right.
He said, when I was in high school, I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning so I could be there by 5:30 to be part of, or maybe 6 to be part of marching band. And he's like, and then I wouldn't get home until, you know, maybe sometimes 10 o'clock at night. And that's a day in, day out kind of thing, 6 or 7 days a week. And it's insane.
Yeah. And we do it, you know, I think a phrase for this, that the church, you know, we've talked about the church, like, shouldn't it be the place where we're leading our culture back to God, or in a healthier way, holistically, but nonetheless, like, shouldn't we be on the front edge of leading?
For sure.
You know, because all of this is about balance.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to lay around and do absolutely nothing, you're not any healthier than being a workaholic, right? So it's all about finding that balance. And, you know, I do see the church's role as like needing to be a leader in that, but we're no different than that here. Like, we're not, the phrase is, we don't model Sabbath.
Yeah.
We're not a model of Sabbath. The actual taking a Sabbath rest is not something that is, in any way taught or even led by example.
For sure.
I mean, pastors there's a reason we have clergy shortage, because of burnout, right? We have a clergy shortage across our nation, and that's one of the reasons. So, you know, I'm sure when your son, you know, and my son's a senior this year, he'll probably, you know, do the same thing. It's like, you know, you get out and you're not working yet, and you're in that liminal space, like, whoa, like, what? Whoa.
I think that's kind of what he's feeling now too, because he's like, tomorrow I don't have classes, and I got all my work done, and I don't have work. And I'm like, what are you going to do? He's like, well, I'm going to drum all day, you know, but that's what he wants to do, you know, so.
I have to trick myself. I am not good at modeling Sabbath. I have had to pick up habits like foraging for mushrooms. I've always been a fisherman, but the bread, like these are things I've picked up because I can do them and have everything else off. But they give me enough to do that I'm not sitting there going crazy. Well, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost
funny.
like a trick, you know?
Yeah. And so for me, like my Sabbath is actually going to the Air National Guard and do my drill weekends, because like you said, it's one of those things where it takes you out of your norm, and it's that shift away. Even though I'm working and doing stuff like that, it's like sometimes it's like just that shift and doing something else. I guess I can't really call that Sabbath, but
it's like sort of the closest we can get, and maybe that's one of the problems, or at least that's definitely a growth area.
Yeah,
because I have been around believers, from priest to preacher to just that you can feel something different about them. You can just kind of feel this steadiness, and it's only been a couple times in my life that I've known somebody like that. And when I get to know them, it turns out they spend true, quiet, still time with God, like daily or at least regularly. 20 minutes of nothing, little, you might call it meditation or a contemplative prayer, but they practice that stillness, and it has an impact. And I mean, as a hopefully soon to be ordained preacher, I want to have that for people when I'm around, and I know I don't, but because I mean the thing is like, do we believe that God is waiting for us there? Like, do we or do we not believe that God is waiting for us to spend some time just with Him?
Yeah.
What do you think, Matt? And so, well, it's just and yet it's one of the least things we do. We focus on all this other stuff. Can I read one of my little quotey things?
Yeah.
So to preface this, one of the ancient writers that I like to read sometime, it was Meister Eckhart. He saw the crowd and Zacchaeus climbing above the crowd as when we pull this off. That the multitude is the I think he called it the multitude of the ignorant, like thoughts, like all the monkey mind. He didn't call it that, but that's another, like just the ping ponging monkey mind. That's just, and that Zacchaeus was this symbol of when we finally just get into that. I don't know. I see it visually, like he locks in with Christ, and like everything else fades out. Even though he's in that crowded space, I don't know. Maybe I'm
kind of rising above it, all
I'm
transcending
making it a little movie-like, but you know what I mean? Like I just see Zacchaeus and Christ like having a moment of just like eye contact.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, at least that was my take when I read Meister Eckhart's thoughts on it, was that, this is a great story for this lesson, because it is like just having that moment where all of that finally does quiet, and you're there with them. And this was the actual quote. This is from St. Teresa of Avila. So just to recap, we all agree that God is there waiting on us.
Yeah.
Okay. So she said, all difficulties in prayer can be traced to one cause: praying as if God were absent. Right? All difficulties in prayer can be traced to one cause: praying as if God were absent. And then this is a similar quote from someone else. We cannot attain the presence of God. We're already totally in the presence of God. What's absent is awareness. And then it went on to say we need to unlearn some things, which I don't know what all we need to unlearn.
Yeah.
But just this, it's just saying it in pretty words, but like He is there. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've kind of shifted even when I'm leading like congregational prayer. I won't say like, we invite your spirit, which, it's fine if somebody does. I'm not criticizing that. But for myself, I've switched to like, let us remember that your spirit is here already. Because a lot of times that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Just remember we're not alone. He's here with us. But I think our practice is going to be pretty obvious. But before we wrap up, was there anything from your actual sermon? Any other takeaways looking at this?
So this is one thing I never brought up, but as we're talking, I think it's actually pretty pertinent. So just the way that men and women are different in how they think and process things. So women, if you can imagine like a bunch of wires that are all stuck together, like you have all these cords, like maybe in your garage or in a drawer somewhere,
right? And
they're all like interconnected, and it would take you a long time to pull them out. So for women, I think this practice is probably harder for them because on average, when you think about, okay, so the laundry needs to get done. Well, you can actually tie the laundry needing to get done to your son's baseball game. things like
Okay.
that, because everything is interconnected so much.
There's a lot of like web of connections.
Exactly.
It's not just a linear,
It-
1 and
yep.
2 and 3 and 4. It's like, okay.
And so when you're like this, you don't stop thinking, because it's like kind of like the ping pong ball. It
Yeah.
goes from this to this to this to this.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a practice that is a lot harder for women.
Okay.
Now, secondly, for men, I think this practice, we can do it in certain areas, but we oftentimes find ways to do it that maybe aren't exactly what God wants. So when I play Call of Duty, okay,
Right.
I'm not thinking about anything
Right,
at all.
right.
And this, it's called the nothing box.
Right.
Men actually can think about nothing at all.
Right.
And so we can sometimes turn that off.
Yeah.
But we oftentimes do it by turning on some other stimuli.
Right. Like
know-
like with the bread or
Yeah,
going in
yeah,
the woods.
exactly. So I just thought I'd bring that up because I thought that was kind of like I don't know if it applies all the way, but it's kind of interesting.
So last question I have then before we close with our practices, what do y'all think the church's role should be if we're recognizing this as like a problem for all of us, and yet at the same time recognizing how good and much we need to have that Sabbath? Like, what do you think the church's role is in like beginning to guide people back there? Like, do you think we need to try? Do you think we just let it go? It's too hard?
Well, I don't think we let it go. I think having that place to gather and, kind of all be in the moment, with worship leading into like a message.
So maybe something
I
as
think,
simple
yeah.
as not bringing your phone into worship being like an example of,
But yeah,
maybe an actual Bible or something, or
getting back to the physical
yeah.
Bible where
Something
you don't
like
have random distractions.
So kind of leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
But Tim, I mean, as a head pastor, like, do you think the church needs to do any more than just us try to be examples? Does it need to actually put an effort in?
So this is kind of a funny thing because 2 weeks ago you preached and I was kind of taking notes, and I mentioned, like, I was like, there's quiet in that transition. We need to fill it.
Right.
And now I'm like, you know what? Maybe that quiet is actually not a bad thing.
Maybe not.
So how do we do this in the church? Maybe we just allow for more space. I mean, if you go to any modern church, there's no time where there's not some sort of eye-catching thing. So
It's a production.
yeah,
And I don't even mean that necessarily in a bad way, but it is a finely tuned machine.
You even have a called a bumper reel to
Yep.
get you from one thing to another.
Right. Yeah.
And so maybe just acknowledging that, just saying, hey, there are going to be moments of quiet in our service, and in those moments, it's actually planned.
Yeah. And I tend to think too, like, do that also like in the committee meetings or the Sunday school lesson or what, like, just like when you go to pray or however you're going to start it with a quiet moment.
Yeah.
Just begin to like actually put it into the actual functions of the church itself would be one.
Yeah, I like that when you do prayer, it's almost like there's this pregnant pause.
Yeah.
I get to use that phrase. Nobody
Yeah.
uses that outside
Yeah.
of seminary. But
Well, and I'm doing that because I've read on this whole being, the phrase that I picked up from some of the writers is being present to the presence in the present. And so that's intentionally why I take that quiet moment, even as a couple hundred people in a room and just, and then go.
Yeah.
So anyways, well, how about our practices? I think this is some low hanging fruit, but what comes to mind? I tell you what, I hardly ever go first. I'll go first. I'm going to give one that I have actually practiced at times, and it is one of those like training wheels. Okay, so it's a practice of being still with training wheels. Don't turn anything on in the car. Just whether especially if you have any kind of commute, just at least for one of the drives in a day. Let's just say that pick one drive in the day where you're not going to turn on anything. and it'll help if you're alone. But, just don't turn on anything. Just drive totally in quiet. And obviously you're still going to have to deal with distractions in a sense, but like I said, maybe this is a training wheels one. And I know I've done it before, and you end up like enjoying the space and the silence. So, all right, what about y'all?
You got one? Okay, so I can go. So my wife and I were talking about the sermon afterward, and I always, like how did I do? Did I mess up or anything like that?
I really thought it was great.
But well, thank you. So she said, when you were talking about that, and I spoke about how when my kids were young, I would do things like, lightsaber fights, tea parties, and things like that, and how taking the time for those things and just being present with them is something that you're so thankful later on in life that you do.
Oh man, yeah.
And so often we say, well, I'll do that tomorrow, or just do it. And so my wife had a good friend who was a neighbor, and they grew up together, all their life. And this person, she was about 35 years old. She developed breast cancer right after she had her first baby. And one of the things that she said that really stuck with my wife, as especially after she passed, was she said, "Eat the cake, take the trip."
Oh, okay.
And I think that's one of those things. It's like, don't wait for tomorrow to do what you can do today. Like if you only have one life,
right?
And a lot of us will put things off until tomorrow. So
especially those relational things.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm not saying eat the cake every day because you want to live long,
right?
And
right.
that's not going to be, but take time to just enjoy life. Like, when was the last time you took a vacation where you actually went somewhere and you just sat there and just enjoyed it?
Yeah. Or actually stopped and smelled the roses, so to speak. Like,
yesterday I was Labor Day, and I was here at the church because that's what you do as a pastor, and I took some time I looked at the flowers out front, and they were just covered with bees. And I probably stood there for like 3 minutes, and people were probably, if anybody saw me, they'd be like, "What is he doing?"
Yeah.
But it was just so neat just to take time just to watch them.
Well, we didn't get to it, but the role of awe and wonder is so powerful in encountering God in these moments. I mean, Moses in the burning bush.
Yeah.
God didn't trap him there in like a force field.
Yeah, you're right.
Like made him listen. He was just this like little thing over here that Moses is like, I got to go check that out.
Yeah.
I got to be interrupted and go like check it out. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
I think my practice is dive into a hobby.
Okay.
Example would be I'm getting more into photography and just simply going for a walk and taking random nature photos. Like, I took a pretty cool photo of a squirrel.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a cool photo of a squirrel.
Did you name him Squirrely?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But yeah, just, find something that you enjoy doing and, do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is one of those topics that, the main practice that we're offering these sort of training wheels versions to is really just actually do nothing.
Yeah.
Just totally be nothing with like stillness with God.
Yeah.
But we're all so uncomfortable with it. We can't even just make that the practice. But
practice putting a puzzle together with God.
Yeah.
And a puzzle is actually one of those things that is a good thing because it slows you down quite a bit.
All this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know it helps. I mean, even just scientifically, they call it mindfulness in like the psychology world. It's totally helpful, but yeah.
When you were talking about taking a picture of a squirrel, my mind instantly went to Pokemon. And I'm like, just imagine if that was actually a thing, instead of taking a picture of a squirrel, you would try to catch it in a ball. I was just thinking how funny that would be if Matt just went out there with a backpack.
Ladies and gentlemen, we get a peek into what takes up Pastor Tim's mental space throughout the day. It's not random.
What if. It's not.
It's totally random thoughts. But anyways, well, thanks for diving into this, and let this
talk shape our walk.